This is VOA News. I'm Joe Ramsey. The United States will provide Kyiv with a new military package worth up to $500 million, the Pentagon said on Tuesday, in a show of support for Ukraine's fight against Russia as Moscow deals with the aftermath of a mutiny by mercenary fighters.
This package includes key capabilities that will support Ukraine's counteroffensive operations, such as mine-clearing equipment, armored vehicles, and artillery rounds.
White House Deputy Press Secretary Olivia Dalton. Russian President Vladimir Putin says the finances of a catering firm owned by mercenary chief Yevgeny Prigozhin are being investigated in the wake of Saturday's attempted mutiny. Reuters correspondent Matthew Laratonda reports.
Meeting with army troops at the Kremlin, Putin is saying that he hopes no one stole anything, but that it will be investigated. Earlier, he told a crowd of 2,500 security personnel at a ceremony there that they'd stopped civil war from starting. Putin doesn't mention Prigozhin by name, who's reportedly now in Belarus beginning his exile after the incident, according to its president, Alexander Lukashenko. Lukashenko is said to have brokered the deal that ended the crisis. On Tuesday, he said that he warned Prigozhin that Russian forces would, quote, squash him like a bug if the mutiny had carried on.
Reuters correspondent Matthew Laratonda. Pope Francis's peace envoy to Ukraine arrived in Moscow Tuesday for a visit just weeks after visiting Kyiv, according to the Vatican and media reports. It's the first trip to Moscow by a senior Vatican official since Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022. Find more on our website, voanews.com. This is VOA News. Authorities in Zambia have arrested former President Edgar Lunga's son and daughter-in-law on charges of money laundering and possessing property believed to be proceeds of a crime worth more than $5 million. Kathy Short reports from Lusaka.
Police spokesperson Ray Hamonga told VOA on Tuesday that Daliso Lungu and his wife Matilda have been arrested in their capacity as directors of Saloidi Traders Limited. He said they are accused of owning 69 motor vehicles and other properties believed to have been proceeds of crime.
The duo have since been released on police bond and will appear in court soon.
The arrests come a week after Zambian authorities announced the seizure of some 20 properties linked to Daliso, former President Lungu's wife Esther, and daughter Tasila. Kathy Short for VOA News, Lusaka, Zambia.
Fighting raged in the Sudanese capital on Tuesday, the eve of a Muslim holiday, after paramilitary seized Khartoum's main police base. Fighting in the city between the army and paramilitary rapid support forces is now concentrated around military bases. At the same time, in Sudan's west, the conflict is worsening to quote-unquote alarming levels in Darfur, the United Nations warned. Since the war erupted on April 15th, the RSF has established bases in residential neighborhoods of the capital, while the army has struggled to gain a foothold on the ground despite its air superiority. In a 7-2 vote, the U.S. Supreme Court makes it more difficult to convict somebody of making a threat, including against the president and other elected officials. AP correspondent Mike Hempen reports.
The question was whether prosecutors must show that a person being prosecuted for making a threat knew the behavior was threatening, or whether prosecutors have to only prove that a reasonable person would see it as threatening. The High Court case involves a man who was sentenced to more than 4 years in prison in Colorado for sending threatening Facebook messages. The man's lawyers say he never intended his messages to be threatening. Justice Elena Kagan wrote for the majority of the court that prosecutors have to show the defendant had some subjective understanding of the threatening nature of his statements. Mike Hempen, Washington.
Canada launched its first ever national climate adaptation strategy on Tuesday, aimed at reducing the risk from extreme weather events like floods and wildfires and mitigating slowly the impacts of fossil fuel-driven global warming, including melting permafrost. The strategy came as Canada tackles its worst ever wildfire season, with 7.8 million hectares already burned. I'm Joe Ramsey.
Thank you for watching. Can you do me a favor? Please leave a comment in the comments section below. That would really help. Thank you, and see you again soon.